Ever wonder how a cozy campfire sing-along can turn into a bloody-soaked nightmare? Today, we're taking you through the iconic horror that started it all, Friday the 13th. From off-screen stabbings to machetes through the throat, this classic slasher knows how to keep you squirming in your seat. But before we dive into the carnage, if you enjoy deep dives into the gory details and twisted turns of horror movies, you're in the right place. We break down the blood, the scares, and the scream-worthy moments, all with a side of dark humor, because let's face it, nothing pairs better with horror than a good laugh. So if you're into that, go ahead and give the like button a nice hug, just make sure it's not holding a machete. Also hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our terrifying uploads. Now let's jump into the nightmare that is Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th kicks off with a seemingly innocent camp sing-along in 1958, setting a nostalgic, almost comfortable tone until all goes horribly wrong. Barry and Claudette, two counselors who clearly prefer some private time over chaperoning, sneak into a storage cabin for a little rendezvous.
We weren't doing anything.
Barry is the first to go, stabbed in the stomach off screen, leaving us with nothing but his agonized gasp as the camera tastefully cuts away. A classic what you don't see is scarier moment.
Ah, the good old days when a quick stab to the gut was all it took to ruin the mood. Nothing says summer camp like a little murder between s'mores.
Right after Barry's off-screen demise, Claudette meets an equally grim fate. She barely has time to scream before the killer's POV rushes at her. The camera freezes right as she reaches her face, giving us a lingering shot of her terror. This early double homicide effectively seals Camp Crystal Lake's reputation as Camp Blood, setting the stage for the horrors to come. Fast forward to the present day, or at least 1980, we meet Annie Phillips, an upbeat camp counselor-to-be who's excited to start her job at the reopened camp.
How far is it to Camp Crystal Lake?
How far is Camp Crystal Lake from here?
Her cheerful attitude is immediately met with suspicion from the locals, and Crazy Ralph even warns her of the camp's curse.
You're opening that place again?
You're going to Camp Blood, ain't you? Never come back again.
Oh, shut up, Ralph.
It's got a death curse.
But Annie is undeterred, a bright-eyed, optimistic, determined to reach Camp Crystal Lake. That is until she hitches a ride with the wrong person.
Hi, I'm going to Camp Crystal Lake.
The suspense builds as the driver remains unseen. The tension thickens with every mile until Annie senses something's wrong.
Hey, wasn't that the road up for Camp Crystal Lake back there? Please stop!
Hitchhiking in a horror movie. Classic rookie mistake. It's like she was practically gift wrapping herself for the killer.
Poor Annie doesn't get far. After a desperate run through the woods, she's cornered, and in one swift, brutal move, the killer slashes her throat with a machete. It's a shocking, graphic moment, especially compared to the earlier subtle kills. Annie's death not only makes the first major kill in the present timeline, but also signals to the audience that Friday the 13th isn't holding back. The film may have started with a shadowy off-screen violence, but now the blood is in front and center and no one is safe.
Annie learned the hard way that sometimes trust your gut means running in the opposite direction. And with that machete, well, let's just say she won't be singing Kumbaya anytime soon.
By the time we reach the 40-minute mark, the movie has firmly established its formula: isolation, unsuspecting victims, and a killer lurking just out of sight. Ned, one of the counselors, is next to meet a grisly end. He's your typical goofball, always cracking jokes and pulling pranks.
Oh, something's wrong with Ned. Hurry up, Ned. Come on. Oh, Neddy!
But his curiosity gets the better of him when he spots someone entering a cabin. He follows them inside, and that's when we last see of him alive.
Can I help you? Hello?
When we next encounter Ned, it's a chilling reveal that his lifeless body with a slit throat is sprawled on the top of a bunk, early unnoticed by the couple below.
Poor Ned, always the jokester. Guess the killer wasn't in the mood for a punchline. And I've gotta say, as far as hide and seek goes, he really nailed the hidden part.
Meanwhile, Jack and Marcie, blissfully unaware of the course above them, decide it's time for some extracurricular activity. The tension in the scene is almost unbearable, knowing what's literally hanging over them. After they're done, Marcie heads off to the bathroom, leaving Jack alone in the bed. That's when the killer strikes again, this time with brutal precision. An arrow is thrust through the back of Jack's neck, the point emerging right below his throat. It's a gruesome, visceral kill that's perfectly executed, with blood squirting out as the life drains from his eyes. The effect is pure horror gold, of one of those moments that makes you squirm in your seat.
Jack always wanted to hit the bullseye, but I'm guessing an arrow through the neck wasn't what we had in mind. Talk about a penetrating performance.
As if that wasn't enough, the body count keeps climbing when Marcie unknowingly walks into her own death trap. After hearing a strange noise in the bathroom, she cracks the shadows but finds nothing. Just as she relaxes, thinking it's all in her head, the killer steps out of the shadows wielding an axe.
Must be my imagination.
The build-up is excruciatingly tense, and then wham! The axe comes down right into Marcie's face. A split-second strike that leaves a gruesome imprint. The scene is a masterclass in tension and timing, playing the audience's fear and delivering a shock that's both sudden and satisfying.
Marcie always had a sharp mind, but now she's got the axe to prove it. Nothing like a little face-to-face time with death, right?
The night at Camp Crystal Lake has taken a darker turn, and the remaining counselors are about to face the terror head-on. Brenda, the sweet and responsible one, gets lured outside by what sounds like a child's voice crying for help. The scene is shrouded in fog and the tension is palpable as Brenda stumbles through the archery range, clearly spooked but determined to help. The moment the lights switch on, she realizes she's walked right into the killer's trap. Although her death happened off-screen, the impact is no less terrifying. We hear her screams followed by the ominous twang of bowstring, leaving the rest to our imagination, a clever move that makes her fate feel even more chilling.
Poor Brenda, always the caretaker. She walked right into a game of target practice, but this time she was the bullseye. Off-screen or not, she definitely got the point.
While Brenda meets her end off-screen, Steve Christie, the camp's owner, isn't so lucky. After spending most of the evening away from the camp,
I'll be back sometime after lunch.
he returns only to find himself face to face with a killer.
Hello?
What's particularly unsettling here is how the scene unfolds. Steve recognizes the assailant, his guard down just enough for the killer to strike.
Oh, hi.
The stabbing happens just below the frame, leaving Steve's death to our imagination, but his shocked expression says it all. It's a quick, brutal end to the man who tried to bring the cabin back to life, only to fall victim to its curse.
Steve really thought he could outsmart fate, but instead he got a point-blank lesson in never trust a familiar face. Guess the camp's reopening plans just got short, literally.
And then we have Bill, who takes on the role of the concerned protector, trying to figure out what's causing all the strange happenings. Unfortunately, his investigation leads him straight to his doom. After the power goes out, Bill heads to check the generator, only to be ambushed by the killer. When Alice, the last remaining counselor, goes looking for him, she finds a grisly sight. Billy's body pinned to the door with arrows, throat slit and blood everywhere. It's a grotesque display emphasizing just how relentless the killer has become. The scene is pure horror, not just in its violence, but in the sheer helplessness it conveys. Billy's death is a stark reminder that Friday the 13th, no one is safe no matter how heroic they try to be.
Billy stuck around to keep the lights on, but it looks like the killer had other plans, like him making a new camp decoration. A real pin-up job if you ask me.
As the movie nears its climax, Friday the 13th reveals its true puppet master, Miss Pamela Voorhees, played by the legendary Betsy Palmer.
Well, I'm Mrs. Voorhees.
When Alice finally encounters her, Miss Voorhees seems harmless at first, a kindly middle-aged woman who claims to be an old friend of the Christie family.
An old friend of the Christies. No, but it's all right. I'll take care of you.
But as she begins to recount the story of her son Jason's tragic drowning, her demeanor shifts. We see the transformation from a grieving mother to a deranged killer who's been exercising her twisted revenge on anyone who dares reopen the camp.
Did you know that a young boy drowned? The counselors weren't paying any attention. They were making love while that young boy drowned. His name was Jason. Jason should have been watched every minute.
In a tense and chaotic final showdown, Alice manages to overpower Miss Voorhees. With one desperate swing of a machete, she decapitates her in a moment that's both shocking and cathartic. The head rolls to the ground, eyes wide in shock, while Alice, exhausted and terrified, collapses, her nightmare seemingly over.
Talk about losing your head in the heat of the moment. Miss Voorhees had a lot of sharp opinions, but I don't think she saw that coming.
Betsy Palmer's role as Miss Voorhees is iconic, not just because of the twist that she, not Jason, is the killer in the first film, but also because of the depth she brought to the character. Palmer, a respected actress known for her work on stage and in television, initially took the role purely for the paycheck. She famously needed money to buy a new car.
And so the phone rang, and my agent said, "How would you like to do a movie?" I said, "Great, that'll pay for the car that I want to buy."
She even reportedly thought the script was trash, but decided to do it anyway.
He sent me the script, I read it, and I said, "What a piece of shit."
Little did she know her portrayal would go on to define one of horror's most enduring franchises. Palmer's performance added layers to what could have been a one-dimensional character. She turned Miss Voorhees into a deeply troubled, vengeful mother whose grief at madness made her more terrifying than any masked slasher.
Kill her, Mommy. Kill her. Don't let her get away, Mommy. Don't let her live.
I won't.
The decapitation scene itself was a technical challenge requiring careful choreography and practical effects. Tom Savini, the special effects maestro, used a fake head and a combination of dummies and clever camera angles to make the effect as gruesome as possible.
She may have taken the role for a quick buck, but Betsy Palmer created a legacy that outlived her character.
Palmer's portrayal as Miss Voorhees not only set the stage for Jason's eventual rise as a horror icon, but also left an indelible mark in the genre. Her performance in Friday the 13th proved that sometimes it's the unexpected roles that define a career and leave a lasting impact on pop culture. The character's legendary continues to influence horror films to this day, proving that even a genre known for its masked killers, sometimes the scariest monster is the one you least expect. And there you have it. In the twisted tale of Friday the 13th, the unforgettable carnage that unfolds at Camp Crystal Lake. From Barry and Claudette ill-fated tryst to Miss Voorhees losing her head literally, this film set the stage for one of horror's most enduring franchises.
If this dive into the Friday the 13th has left you craving more slasher thrills, be sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more gruesome goodness, and ring the bell so you never miss an episode. You don't want to be left in the dark, or do you?
And let us know in the comments, what's your favorite kill in Friday the 13th? Which horror icon would you like to see us dissect next? Until then, stay safe, keep the lights on, and remember, at Camp Crystal Lake no one gets out alive. See you in the next one.